questions. Be curious.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third and final session of this year's Mobile Money Leadership Forum. Over the past sessions, we've explored how mobile money continues to evolve, from enabling access to driving innovation to shaping inclusive digital economies. And now, as we close our discussions today, we turn to an equally important question. How do we ensure that access translates into meaningful, equitable, and sustainable usage? In sub-Saharan Africa, digital financial services have become central to economic life. Today, billions use mobile money, not just to send and receive funds, but to save, borrow, invest, and participate more fully in the broader digital economy. Yet, as adoption deepens, new challenges emerge, challenges that go beyond connectivity and account ownership. It's no longer just about bringing people into the financial system. It's about making the systems work for everyone, ensuring it is safe, informed, and equitable, so that digital finance becomes a genuine engine for inclusive growth. This session focuses on how we can make that vision a reality by strengthening two essential enablers and unlocking one opportunity for power practices can help more people, especially women and marginalized groups, engage confidently with digital financial services. Second, financial education. Because inclusion without understanding is fragile. Tailored contextual financial education empowers users to navigate digital tools with confidence, assess and manage risks, and build long-term financial resilience. And finally, we'll look at cross-border payments as a major opportunity for growth and inclusion. From enabling small traders to compete regionally, to helping migrants send money home affordably, seamless cross-border interoperability can boost trade, mobility, and regional integration, amplifying the development impact of digital finance. Our session today brings together diverse voices to unpack how these enablers can collectively move us from access alone to deeper usage, supporting financial health and resilience. So to kick off the discussion, I'm pleased to invite Erwan Gelebart, CEO of Axian Fintech, to join me for a fireside chat. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. So we're going to kick off, but maybe you can give us just a very brief intro of Axian's work in mobile money and digital financial services.
Okay. I'll even give a bigger picture of Axian. So Axian, it's a family business. We're active in Senegal, Comoros, Madagascar, Togo. Fintech, my part, so the same 5 countries, mobile money, coming from telco, as often in Africa, real estate, and financial services, so say traditional banks in a good way, insurance and so on. So we have universal banks in Madagascar, for example. Fintech, about 20 million customers in the same 5 markets as our telecom business processing about 50 billion annual, and big on lending. That is our new big thing.
Great. So it's clear that Axian Group has been driving digital and fintech innovation across several African markets. So from you, where you sit today, Erwan, what's the biggest change you've seen in how customers are using digital financial services today compared to just a few years ago?
So there are a few changes, and to me, what is so I've been in this industry since 2008. So I believe we all agree it changed quickly. I think what is happening now, so obviously depending on the market, it's changing. It's more or less advanced, but I think to me there's a shift happening on many fronts, right? One is, interestingly, our customers are way more mature, if I may say, or demanding, right? So typically moving money, fees, customer experience, the app, and so on, they know what is happening in other markets. Even though there's no Revolut in Madagascar, believe me, the customers in Madagascar knows what a Revolut experience look like, right? And they understand that you're not paying to necessarily move money in some markets. So obviously there's an increasing demand and pressure from customers to get a state-of-the-art customer experience, obviously, and obviously better fees. The competition also has increased. So that's one thing that to me is a good thing, but clearly our own customers evolved and more demanding, which is good for the industry. The second is financial services, right? Not just moving money. There's an expectation now, and we're focusing a lot on that, is how do I, as a consumer, have access to the same services than banked customers have, right? So how do we bridge the gap? And there's a growing expectation that I can borrow money, I can save money, I can invest in crypto, depending on the market. But clearly there's a shift from, moving money, we fixed that problem, right? And consumers saying, now what? What do you have for me, right? I don't want to pay fees anymore, so give me merchant payment, right? So instead of cashing out and paying to my grocery shop, I pay directly to the grocery shop. So there's a shift to payment, there's a shift to financial services, and there's a shift to apps, and I would say customer experience is more important than it used to be. And finally, they want options. So that's where the interoperability, as you mentioned, is a big game changer for all of us in our markets, because it simply gives option. It opens basically the field, right? So now it's not about I pick my telco and I use the mobile money that come with it. Is I pick my telco for a good reason, best 5G network, and I will pick my financial service provider because I feel is the best one. So that also changed. Consumer want more options. One last word. I know it's a fire chat.
It's okay.
It's also, when we say customers, Ashley, we tend to say, individual customers, and that's because we started with that in mobile money. Today, when I look at our numbers, net adds monthly, we have a lot of SMEs, right? So merchants. In Tanzania, where we operate, we have 600,000 SMEs. So all these mom and pops and so on. And that's a massive digitalization happening. I think mobile money, we've been fairly good at digitalizing individuals. The SME wave is coming now, and that's a big change also for us.
Great. I loved the part about mature consumers, because we think a lot about a customer's journey through mobile money and how in the beginning it can be very basic and solving a very basic issue, a singular issue, but then over time as they become more informed, more comfortable and confident within the digital financial system, and as folks like yourselves give them more options of things to do with that mobile money tool, they grow and they mature as well. So that's really great. Cross-border payments, so I mentioned this in my opening, how it can really unlock opportunities for regional integration, for migrants, for traders, and so I'd love to hear how Axian Group is approaching this space and what barriers you still see existing that need to be addressed.
So I won't be able to disclose much. We're working on a few things on that front, but let me put it this way. We feel it's a space that still needs to be disrupted. Basically, cross-border payments, we feel is still too expensive. We feel that we should be able to offer, we as an industry, I'm not saying just Axian, more than just moving money from one country to another. If you're an SME, right, so you want to, I don't know, invoice a customer that is in Rwanda from Uganda and so on. So there's a lot to do. We feel there's a lack of innovation in remittance, international remittance, largely. We feel that, of course, there's a role we can play as, let's say, payment instrument issuer, if you want to define us this way. But to me, the big game changer will come from infrastructure, and mostly DPIs, right? Because basically, today, the reason why it's expensive to move money, let's say, from one country to another, is because it's a broken system. So to me, the day you will have these interoperability platforms, for example, in West Africa, we just went live with BCAO, so our central bank, a few weeks ago with the instant payment system. Imagine tomorrow, you connect that instant payment system in West Africa with the Central Africa instant payment system. Basically, suddenly you connect hundreds of millions of accounts, potentially, right? There's an example, so I know it's not Africa, but Pakistan, so their instant payment system called Rast, is now integrated with the Middle East, the UAE, I believe, or Saudi, I don't remember, but instant payment system. And there's a big Pakistani diaspora sending money back home. It's very expensive. I can tell you that the day it's done, basically the transaction fees will go down, it's instant, it's secure. So to me, there are two things. One is we need, and I know it's not necessarily something popular to say, but we need regulators and government to invest in DPIs. And we need to connect these DPIs. Basically, the day you have a Pan-African interconnected set of DPIs, it will change trade, it will change the cost of moving money for the diaspora, and then we come in. It doesn't remove anything from us. It's a layer on top of which, it's an infrastructure on top of which you can innovate. Because moving money is one thing, but what other services do you offer on top of that? Mm-hmm. So to me, remittance is still it's ready for disruption. Let me put it this way. It's still too expensive, and we need infrastructure to connect all these countries. Today, we do it, but honestly, the level of efforts it takes, I'll tell you, in Togo, I won't name the MTO, we almost had to beg for 8 months MTO to connect to our base. We have 70% market share in that market. We have millions of customers. We had almost to beg them to connect our market and our customer base in Togo with their relative and the diaspora in other countries. It's crazy. So to me, that will help, and then we need to innovate on top of that and offer more than just sending money.
I can always count on Erwan for saying the unpopular thing. But I have a follow-up question to that, which is maybe a wild card. Do you see African governments talking to one another about DPI systems that go across borders?
So I think it's a matter of time. So I don't know if they're talking. I'm not in the room. I hope they do. I hope they do because we see that happening. I think obviously what they do at the moment is focusing on rolling out their own instant payment system, because still in a lot of our markets there's no instant payment system. So if you take again the BCAO initiative, now it's done, but it's being rolled out. Not everyone is connected, so we're happy to share that we were the first mobile wallet in West Africa to connect to the instant payment system. We always say we embrace that change at Axian because we believe it's not something we should resist. I mean, it's just the sense of history. It will accelerate everything. It will accelerate inclusion among SMEs, increase trade, and so on. And our job should be to innovate on top of that infrastructure.
Do you have any ask for other partners within the ecosystem, banks, fintechs, your competitors, around this topic of cross-border payments and making them more affordable and accessible?
That's why I'm saying maybe I'll be a bit deceptive, but to me it's a lot about these DPIs when it comes to remittance. And then on top of that, we're ready to innovate again, create an invoicing system. Finance invoices for the SMEs is where we have a role to play. For those who don't know, Axian Fintech and the direction we're taking in some of our markets, we are a fintech with a commercial bank license, right? If you take Madagascar, our business now is not moving money anymore. We started as mobile money. We're very much a digital bank now. So we focus a lot more on adding financial services that help our customers more than trying to charge more and more on transaction fees, right?
Yep.
So to me, that's the key. One is we need the infrastructure, and instead of making money because the system is broken, let's make money on innovation and bringing more services. And again, the thing is that today the system is broken. So I could be very consensual and tell you that, oh, let's partner with the likes of Afrique, Tunes, and all these guys. But again, these guys exist because the system is broken. So to me, get us the infrastructure. At Axian, we embrace it, we welcome it, we want more of infrastructure, and then you can invest and innovate for these SMEs, these consumers, that again need more than just sending money. Yep. You could, for example, do a send now, remit now, pay later kind of service, right? So you can basically bring financing solutions to the diaspora, from, let's say, South Africa to Zimbabwe, for example. Yeah. That's where we have a role to play. We shouldn't just make money on a broken infrastructure going forward.
Great. So maybe thinking a bit broader than cross-border payments, but if you look 5 years into the future, what will you define success for digital financial services in Africa? Is it scale, innovation, impact, or something else?
Well, it's of course a combination of all that, but I've been in this industry for 15 years. Started the eye opener. I was a consultant for a company that got awarded the MTN contract to roll out mobile money. Right, I was in charge of Ghana for some time, so it was an eye opener. Also, I grew up in Africa, so reconnected a lot of things. Right, and so to me, beyond the job, it also money safely at a decent cost and so on. 15 years ago, it was yesterday, in most of our markets, the options were the postal office or basically giving cash to the bus, and they will bring it to the village and so on, right? So we solved that problem. My dream, 5 years down the line, to answer your question, and I'll take an extreme example because I know it will sound unrealistic. My dream is that we finance houses in a few years, that we allow this population to have access to mortgages, for example. There's no reason on earth that with technology and innovation, we couldn't bring true financial services to the masses. That shouldn't be for happy fews, right? So I take mortgage because I know it's a complex product, but asset financing and everything you can imagine for a banked customer, SME, and individual, for me, success will be, as an industry, as part of that industry, the day we bridge the gap between the banked and the underbanked on all kinds of services. That, to me, the day we achieve that, as an industry, we can say that we've done good for the continent.
Amazing. I have one final question to wrap up. So you said you've been in this industry for 15 plus years. What keeps you excited about digital financial services? What keeps you going every day to keep beating the drum and doing the hard work?
Well, that's precisely chasing that dream. And the innovation, basically, because it's not just, it's how you get there with innovative business models, technology, customer experience, design and so on. What keeps me going is looking into innovative ways to bring these services to the population, right? And sometimes it's a combination of, so that's an example we love a lot at Axian, because you understand we're not just fintech or telco. We have a company called WeLight, and WeLight builds mini-grids for those who are in the energy sector. So, villages, when we say villages, not 20 people. There are villages of, 5,000 people sometimes. We build via Axian Energy a mini solar, how can I put that, unit, right? But to finance that, so of course we pre-finance, but to finance that, you have these 5,000 need to pay, you know, for their units and so on and so on. So we go, we invest, we put a meter in every single house, and they use mobile money, basically, to purchase their unit, and as such, they finance the asset, right? So to me, I lost track with your question. But basically, yeah, why do I wake up in the morning excited? That's exactly that. So basically, the power of technology and innovation, and I want to say one thing because that's something that to me is overlooked. You know, the real innovation behind mobile money is not technology. It's not. It's the business model. It's how it works. I tend to say mobile money was Uber for money before Uber existed. Mobile money, you have millions of agents today in Africa. Is it our money that we put, you know, in the agent system? No. We leverage an existing network, if I may say, of millions of SMEs, grocery shops, and so on, who had liquidity. The innovation was using technology to connect, basically, this liquidity to people who need that liquidity and to make it a money transfer service, right? So to me, what drives me is how we innovate in business models, in product, to bring financial services to our customers in Africa so they can, individuals and SMEs, rise and prosper. We believe at Axian that this century is our time. It's the time for Africa. There will be a need for financial services, and we need to invent African-born financial services for the people of Africa. And we believe it's now, and it's going to happen. So that's what drives me every day, is fueling that growth and emergence, as we say in some markets, with adequate financial services. That's what drives me.
Amazing. Well, I think you've really painted the picture for us all about the opportunity for scale, for inclusion, for growth around whether it's different product innovation or systems, business models, but really meeting the needs of the underserved. So with that, I'm really happy to say thank you, and please give Erwan a round of applause. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to invite up my colleague Nyiva Musyoka with her panelists, and we're going to unpack a bit more of the enablers that we talked about, or that I talked about earlier: trust, privacy, security, and also unpack cross-border payments a little bit more. So Nyiva, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, Ashley and Erwan, for that engaging fireside chat session. And we will now move into the panel discussion, where we will delve deeper into how financial inclusion can drive sustainable economic growth, and especially in low and middle income countries, through the lenses of financial education, privacy and security, and cross-border payments. I am delighted to introduce our panelists, and I'll start from my extreme right with Jean Pascal Mvondo, who leads the Better... Can you hear me? Mic check. Mic check. Sorry about that. So I will start from my far right, where we have Jean Pascal Mvondo, who leads the Better Than Cash Alliance's work in Francophone Africa, based within the UNDP. He spent his career shaping national and regional digital economies agendas in more than 14 countries, working with governments, global organizations, and private sector partners to make digital payments an engine for inclusive growth. Jean Pascal, I'm hoping I did not butcher your name.
That's perfect.
I did well, right?
You did very well.
Thank you for that. And next we have Henry Thuku, who is the Director for Business Development at Visa. He leads Visa's business growth with mobile network operators across the region, with over 8 years in numerous roles spanning products, solutions, and client services. Henry has been instrumental in developing digital payment solutions with MNOs and fintechs to advance financial inclusion. And then right next to me, we have Joanne Chanda, who is the country manager for Jumo Southern Africa and CEO for Jumo Zambia. Joanne's career spans the telecom, fintech, and public sectors, from Zamtel and MTN Zambia to Liquid Technologies, and now at Jumo, where she's leading efforts to empower low-income customers, especially women, through inclusive digital financial solutions and to build resilience and opportunity. Welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us. Let's give them a round of applause, please. All right, I'd like to start with a quick warm-up for our audience. So by a quick show of hands, when you think about financial inclusion in Africa today, would you say we are mostly at the access stage or usage? I will repeat. When you think about financial inclusion in Africa today, would you say we are mostly at the access stage or usage stage? So by a show of hands, how many think we are at the access stage? I can see quite a number of hands up. So we're still early in the journey, and let's hear what our panel thinks it will need to take from access to deep financial inclusion and make that impact. And how many of you say we're at the usage stage? I see about 2 hands up. Well, it's encouraging though. So we have made some progress on access, but usage tells a deeper story, and we'll be digging deep into how education, trust, and privacy and security and cross-border payments can strengthen that. All right, so let's get back into the serious stuff. And to set the stage before we get into the specifics, I'd like to start with a quick reflection from a development perspective. And Jean Pascal, I'm leaning on you for this one. Looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, especially SDG number 8, on inclusive and sustainable economic growth, how have digital financial services supported progress so far? And within that context, what role do interoperable and efficient cross-border payment systems play in unlocking trade opportunities for small businesses and driving regional economic integration?
Wow, that's a complicated question. As you rightly said at the very beginning, my work consists in engaging with governments and trying to help them understand why and how digital financial inclusion can drive prosperity in the country. And I like to start there because today, what is the situation when you engage with, let's say, Minister of Finance? He would tell you, I'm facing the negative consequences of global inflation. I'm facing some stress with the sovereign debt crisis. And I'm facing a lot of others competing priorities. Why should I care about digital financial services today? Why can't we just stay with the status quo, with what we have now? So it's really important to start from the situation the way they see it. And if you travel to Central Africa, for instance, there is already a country there that is allocating for this year 52% of its budget only for debt servicing. So they're spending less on health or education. So why are we talking about digital financial services in this situation? Then if we have officials from government here, I want you to keep in mind that investing in digital financial services can help you further boost over 13 out of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In fact, if you want to improve food security, if you want to reduce extreme poverty, if you want to increase access to clean energy, invest in digital financial services. This is how you are going to boost 13 out of the 17 SDGs, including SDG 8, which is about inclusive development. And that's the question about where to start. You mentioned interoperability. Interoperability means that I can pay without asking myself which provider are you using, and I believe the best example is Ghana. From what we hear today, if you want to know what interoperability is about, just go to Ghana. And in the perspective of cross-border payments, because that was the second part of your question, in the perspective of cross-border payment, interoperability for a government means you can make faster payments, incentivize the volume, and the moment you start incentivizing volume, you incentivize economic activity, which is how you grow your GDP. And if you think about Africa, you already have a situation where intra-trade is less than 15%, so very small. In that continent, you have almost 40 countries with live instant payment systems or in their way for launching the instant payment system. So only 15 with no instant payment system. Interoperability in that specific context means giving the possibility to every merchant, person, to trade, to do business, and to send money across the entire continent without thinking about, well, am I going to make the payment? So in one word, or in two words, interoperability in the context of cross-border payment in a continent where intra-trade is very small, but where the vast majority of countries already have instant payment system live, means economic prosperity. And this is why I invite government officials here to continue to prioritize that. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, and thank you for that great framing. It's a reminder that inclusion and integration cannot be separated, and especially when we are talking about Africa's digital economy. Now let's turn to how those principles translate into practice, and I'd like to turn to you, Joanne, for this one. Jumo is actively working to reach underserved and financially excluded populations. What key factors should be taken into account when serving these segments?
Thank you for that question, Nyiva. So, since its launch in 2015, Jumo has positioned itself as the market-leading banking-as-a-service provider. And we do this by leveraging off of artificial intelligence in building credit models that are fit for the underserved communities. So the first thing that we look at as Jumo is customer protection. I think in these underserved communities, these customers need to be protected. So with customer protection, we look at things like the regulator. Are we adhering in all our markets to the current regulations? Because we believe that the regulator is at the core of protecting its own citizens. So local adherence to regulation stands out for us at Jumo. Secondly, we look at data protection and privacy. We at Jumo believe that data is a corporate asset itself. This data does not belong to Jumo, it belongs to the MNOs that we partner with, as well as with the customers. And we believe that adhering to high standards in terms of our data governance processes internally should be able to protect this data for all these customers. We care about the customer's data, and we believe that ensuring high standards in governing of this data is key to serving these customers. And finally, our products exhibit customer centricity. Number one, we make sure that in our product journey, customers are given some financial education to prevent indebtedness. In each and every step of the customer journey, we make sure that the customer understands the penalty, the fees, and the interests This clarity builds trust with our customers because they know that if I take out a loan today and I pay it back 30 days late, this will be my penalty and this will be the interest, obviously, that was already charged to my loan. And also adding to the fact that once a customer has received financial education, they will not be able to fall in this debt trap. So this is what we make sure that in every product journey, we embed education for the customer. It is key, it's important because this is what these customers entail. Secondly, linguistic capability. We believe that in each and every market we serve, we'd like to be close to the cultures of these customers. And we make sure that we are in touch with the simple languages that are in these countries. We'd like to build products where a customer is able to access in their local language. Take, for instance, a farmer in Mukushi in Zambia. Would like to take out a loan, would like to use their local language because they understand what they're doing. It gives them ownership and responsibility in terms of that. So these are some of the things that Jumo has been doing in order to ensure that we are protecting our customers. And it's for this reason that Jumo won the 92% customer protection with Cerise and SPF. This is the highest that any financial technology provider has been able to attain. So this just shows that for us, customer protection is important in helping and developing the underserved. Thank you.
That's really powerful. And just listening to you, clearly inclusion starts with trust, transparency, and also a respect for local contexts. And also just listening to how you have, embedded customer centricity into practice and also financial education and in the product design. It's really impressive to hear that. And as a follow-up to that, Joanne, one of the biggest challenges is ensuring people have the knowledge and confidence to use digital tools safely and meaningfully. And we know that many first-time users of digital financial services lack prior exposure to formal finance. So how can financial education be integrated to ensure customers can confidently navigate and benefit from digital financial services?
Thank you for that question. So for first-time users, what we have done is, in our product journey, we've embedded platform terms and conditions. Now, platform terms and conditions guide the customer. They're not only just, a legal dense for Jumo, but it shows mutual responsibility for the customer. These customers are able to understand why they're logging onto that platform, why they're attempting to get that loan in the first place. So this also allows them to understand that what we are using their data for is entirely for their credit records. It's entirely for their credit scoring, and this is part of the platform T's and C's. It's what we tell our customers to say, when you sign up for this product, the data is solely used for your credit records and for nothing else. That is for first-time users. And also just the ease of the product, to be able to get onto a product. And with customers who use USSD, you're able to dial *115 or *25# and you get onto the platform. The ease of the process for first-time users is very, very important. It shows the users a seamless customer journey, seamless customer experience up to the end into which that product which they're searching for is actually given to them. So it's looking at these two things, gaining the customers' trust through the mutual responsibility of our platform T's and C's, as well as ensuring that the journey, the product journey that the customer faces on that platform, on any MNO platform, is seamless and to the benefit of our customers. So, and what we do at Jumo is every year we have an EPS survey where we go out into the market to ensure that these particular customers are actually, finding our product easier and it's actually serving the purpose that it does. This gives us, good statistics to know that about 80% of our customers are women who are satisfied, and these loans have actually changed their lives. To know that 79% of our customers would actually recommend our loans to the next user, and so on and so forth. So we make sure that we still go back to the market for consumers through the EPS survey, and for microfinance, we go through the microfinance research to just ensure that they give us the necessary feedback on how our product is performing and if it's working for the intended purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne, for that. I love how you're integrating the TNCs and the surveys and also learning into the customer journey rather than making that, a different process, and also the just-in-time education. Still on the same theme of financial capability, which is also linked to financial health, I'd like to bring in the perspective of a global payments leader, Visa. Henry, from Visa's perspective, why is financial education such a critical lever for ensuring that people not only access digital financial services, but also use them confidently and safely?
Thanks, Nyiva. So I'll start with Visa's purpose. So Visa purpose is uplifting everyone everywhere. So you might know Visa from payments, but also Visa has been running the educate pillar, for that years. And what this looks at is how do we support our partners, because Visa is an enabler. Our platform is really about not Visa being the face of the solution. Visa actually enables players, primarily that has been banks, but also lately in the last 6 years, we have also been working with telcos, we have been working with fintechs, because we are looking at how do we expand that to wider players. So operating in 200 countries, that's what we're doing. So going into the finance education pillar, one of the things we believe is this is critical because for the financial health, because you're looking at people need to be able to meet the expenses. They need to absorb financial shocks. They need to have both short-term and long-term goals. That's what this is about. So Visa has developed certain tools in terms of financial education. These tools have been, accessible to so far over 90 million plus people. And these tools are on two areas. We have practical business skills, which is a tool that enables businesses to understand how do they do budgeting, how do they do savings, how do they plan for, their businesses. We also have tools for individuals, practical money skills, which allows individuals to access the products, if I'm accessing credit, reasonable use of credit, which is also a very key part of financial education and financial health. So that's what Visa has been doing, and we work with, providing these assets to all our partners. So they are free resources we provide to partners, but we also work with gamifying, because, some of these assets, for people really to use them, you need to think about how you gamify them. So we are looking at things like, financial football, which is something we worked with the FIFA, we worked with NFL. And this allows people to actually access these tools that enable them to think about, their usage of financial systems, digital financial systems, but also think about using them reasonably, so that then it can allow them to be good in how they manage their finances and how they manage their payments.
Thank you, Henry. You have underscored that education and trust really go hand in hand, and just hearing how you also partner with other organizations, it shows how partnerships can scale learning impacts. Now, as a follow-up to that, Henry, could you tell us a bit more in terms of, examples of how you have integrated financial education over and up, whether it's so you've talked about the financial education context, but what about the product design of it and the innovative delivery channels? What lessons have you learned so far, actually?
So we started, I think, 2 pilots, working closely with GSMA. We have done 2 pilots with 2 key telco operators. And what we are doing is enabling their platform, their super app platform, to be able to provide these digital services, accessibly. So that's what we're doing in terms of enabling this. But we also use our integrations with other telcos that we work with to enable them to have education within the design. So whether it's reinforcement, when you're talking about the onboarding journey, ensuring people understand, what they're doing as they get into financial services. Why are they putting an OTP? What does that mean for securing their payments? As they use also, and reinforcing to them like it's safe, it's secure, and at the end of the day also using our security systems. We have invested a lot, and I'll talk about maybe later, about also our investment in security, because then that allows people to have the confidence in terms of their usage of payment systems.
Thank you, Henry. I'd like to shift our focus to a broader issue of inclusion, and I'll turn to you, Jean Pascal. Even as digital payments expand, ensuring they reach and serve the most vulnerable populations remains a challenge. What recommendations can Better Than Cash Alliance provide to ensure that digital payment systems truly benefit marginalized groups, especially women, youth, and rural population?
Thank you, Nyiva. You have two options. The first option is really when we want to enable interoperability. For instance, we need to make sure that we are promoting inclusive interoperability. In the example of Ghana, we heard about the fact that they had interoperability for the mobile money operators, the e-money issuers, and then they have interoperability for the banks, and then they combine the two to some extent. We have example of countries where we have enabled interoperability, but the rules for all the specific financial actors, not only the banks, but the microfinance institutions, the e-money issuers, are so complicated that all of them cannot be embarked, cannot benefit from that interoperability. Hence, the people they serve are excluded from the benefit from that interoperability. So the first thing when you think about interoperability, we need to think about it with that inclusion perspective to make sure that we are embarking all the financial institutions who are responsible for including the most vulnerable population. This is one. And second, when you think about financial inclusion, how to improve that, you have what we did over the last decade, an agenda that was mainly driven by central banks in collaboration with Ministry of Finance. The end goal was financial inclusion, account and usage, you raise it. But the moment you want to incentivize development outcomes, the moment you want to go beyond financial inclusion, then you need to have other stakeholders to step in, to be part of the conversation. And this is where, from a leadership perspective, we need to have other ways of collaborating for making digital payments, payment systems, a solution also for that, to target very specific segment of the population or to boost very specific outcomes. And I will give you a very last example here when it comes to making that coordination happen. When you are a minister of finance and you want to invite your counterpart from the Ministry of Agriculture to discuss about how we can incentivize adoption and usage of digital payment in agriculture, the answer from the Minister of Agriculture will be, you are a minister just like me. You cannot just invite me like that. So when it comes to coordination, we need to think about how to ensure that all the departments, including the other private sector representative, can have a word to say and a space. And Benin has done something very interesting over the last 3 years. They have been the only country in ECOWAS, for instance, where they moved from a situation of financial exclusion to almost a situation of total financial inclusion, and that financial inclusion leading to impact on the SDGs. And this is the result of appropriate and innovative coordinating mechanisms that the government of Benin has started to put in place, where not only the central bank is collaborating with the Minister of Finance, but other departments are there. So this is how you can really make what you are investing in digital payment, financial inclusion in general, also a driver beyond financial inclusion to target very specific groups and to lead to development outcomes.
Thank you for that. You have highlighted the human side of digital finance and the need for us to be intentional, and especially when we are focusing on these marginalized groups, and also most importantly, collaboration within the ecosystems, whether it's governments, policymakers, and the mobile money operators to work together to close the inclusion gap. Let's now touch on another critical enabler of financial inclusion, which is privacy and security. Because without trust, even the best solutions cannot scale. So starting with you, Joanne, digital finance depends on trust, yet many users remained concerned about how their personal data is collected and used. I know you talked earlier a bit, how you collect personal data and how transparent you are with that data. But how can platforms like Jumo strengthen privacy and responsible data practices to build lasting confidence among users?
Okay. So firstly, like I mentioned before, we look at local regulation, adherence to local regulation. So number one, to gain trust in these territories where we're operating, are we looking at, obviously, the different specific data protection laws? Because it stems from there when you understand the data protection laws in each and every territory you're operating, you gain the trust, not only of the regulation itself, but also the citizen of that particular country. You look at the partnerships that you have, the FSPs and the MNOs. Are you also following and upholding stringent data governance rules that will make these players comfortable in providing this data to you? So within Jumo, we have built strong data governance policies, and these are reviewed on a daily. We make sure that data management, data handling is very, very carefully done. We look at making sure that people who hold only certain roles are able to manage that data. And we make sure that within the organization, we carry out as much training as we can, sensitizing each and every Jumo node in different operations, the importance of data privacy and adhering to the data protection laws in each and every country. So looking after customers' data is number one, and we have actually invested in inbuilt technologies that are able to ensure that customers' data is secure and protected.
That's an excellent demonstration of data responsibility in action, and it highlights the importance of trust. And turning to you, Henry, how does Visa see the role of strong privacy security safeguards in building consumer trust and driving wider adoption of DFS? And what role can AI and machine learning play into this?
Thanks for that. So at Visa, we believe trust and security is very critical for payment systems and for not just payment systems, but it what drives engagement. Yeah, because when people trust the system, then they will engage more. And so Visa is looking at it from two different points of view. So there's one on the network level. So we invest in our network because as an enabler, we have to invest, to protect the players who work with us. So we invest in terms of ensuring we have the right technology, best technology, to quote numbers here, like 11 billion investments in the last 5 years. And what this has done then, it's helped to protect from our network level, 40 billion of fraud. So that's what we do at Visa. But then the next thing is what do we do with the clients who work with, the partners who work with us. It's really about ensuring that we have right kind of certification. So whenever you work in Visa, you always hear about, certain certification like PCI DSS, payment card industry, data security standards. What are we doing in this? We are thinking about privacy by design, because we want whoever is connecting to us, is not introducing new risks to the platform. So we ensure they are complying, and not just in complying to the network, but also in how they store this data. Yeah, and through that, we have then been able to see very low, risks happening, and we're able to manage that. Then jumping into AI, so I would say we've actually been developing AI for a long time, so working with whether it's our risk scoring tool, it's all AI built. And what we are doing around there is ensuring that this AI is also, reasonable, it's sensible, it works to enable, reduce the friction, because if it's about a payment system, then we want to use AI to reduce the friction so that we are not, if we talk about the end consumer, we are not introducing so many hopes. If we trust this transaction, we don't have to step it up, but if we don't trust this transaction, then we step it up, and that way we almost using, yes, risk there, but also balancing also it with over-educating the customer and maybe making them not want to engage with the solution. So it's all about building trust in the ecosystem.
Thank you for that, Henry. And it's encouraging and reassuring to hear that responsible data practices are being embedded into Visa's innovation process from the start. And also just listening to you on AI, clearly AI has a big role to play, and especially when it comes to safeguarding users. So we've talked about education, privacy and security, and usage. But inclusion also means enabling participation across borders. Starting with you, Jean Pascal, as regional integration and cross-border payments are very much in your wheelhouse, could you summarize how Africa Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, is influencing the development of cross-border payment systems in Africa?
Wow. I'd like to start by saying that there is a good news. In Africa, there is no such thing as a small market anymore. And the reason being, since 2021, it's live. The continent has signed the Africa Free Trade Agreement, which is a binding agreement unifying the entire continent. And this is the biggest the biggest free trade area in the world in terms of participating country. So there is no such thing as a small market in Africa in the world anymore, first. The second thing that is important to now keep in mind, how to make that single market an opportunity for every country, every private sector actors, especially at the borders where trade is dominated by women and youth, in particular in this continent. How to make it an engine for prosperity. We have today 3 main instruments. One that is a legal one, which is the Digital Trade Protocol of the AFCFTA, the single market, not to avoid using an acronym. And that Digital Trade Protocol has specific annexes on digital payment and fintech. And Better Than Cash Alliance has been an advisor to the Secretariat of the AFCFTA for making sure that we embed right within those annexes responsible principle so that every government needs to follow to truly unleash the potential of digital payment to drive the prosperity across the continent. And one of those responsible principles is precisely enabling interoperability, all-to-all interoperability within the country, but also with the other countries. So this is one. The second instrument that I want to share, and it's important to keep in mind that this is a binding agreement, so all the countries will need to implement that. The second instrument that I want to share is the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, the PAPS. And what is interesting with PAPS, I don't know how familiar the audience is with PAPS is, currently PAPS is operating across 18 countries. You can make a payment. In Africa, we have more than 40 different currencies. You can make a payment with PAPS, and it will take you 6 seconds for you to pay from your country to your business partner, for instance, to receive the money in the other country. And 6 seconds, Nyiva, is the time for me just to take my glass, to have a drink, and that's it. 6 seconds. So here's the instrument. The agreement, the payment systems, where almost 160 different financial institutions are already onboarded. And I also want to flag that central banks in Africa are also, as part of the association, thinking about speeding up the process to enable interoperability across the payment system. So this is how we can have the big picture and contribute to continue to advance our journey towards prosperity. Thank you.
That's indeed a great overview, Jean Pascal. AFCFTA.
FTA, the single market.
Yes, it's clearly a game changer when it comes to regional trade and payments. And I love how you've emphasized, the systematic role of it. Now, coming back to you, Joanne, as regional migration and trade increasingly shape financial needs in Africa, from Jumo's perspective, how can inclusive digital financial services support cross-border participation for small traders and migrant workers?
Okay, so Jumo has leveraged a lot on partnerships. We have partnered with some of the largest MNOs in Africa. Talk about Orange, Airtel, as well as MTN. And now we recently partnered with a remittance partner, Mukuru. We launched Fast Loan in South Africa at the end of July. Now, what does this mean, this partnership with Mukuru mean for the migrant worker? Most migrant workers in these territories do not have access to credit facilities. But take, for instance, now with Mukuru and Jumo partnership, migrant workers now have access to credit facilities. The opportunity of them sending money back home has now given them the ability to build credit records that will enable them to have financial access. So it's things like our partnerships within the ecosystem that is ensuring that we're supporting cross-border payments and actually growing it by giving access to migrant workers. A worker in Zimbabwe who wants to send money back home will always get access to credit, send money in an emergent situation. So this is what we're doing as Jumo to ensure that we push and help grow cross-border payments across Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. It's fascinating to hear how Jumo's partnerships with MNOs and also the likes of Mukuru are, empowering and creating, a true ecosystem for migrants to be able to transact, and also it has become a bridge for credit access for these particular marginalized individuals. As we wrap up, Henry, what steps is Visa taking to ensure cross-border payment solutions are not only faster but more affordable, but also accessible to businesses, migrants, and underserved communities?
Thanks for that. So Visa, we have a flagship product. We call it Visa Direct. So while you might have known Visa as your card you're using to pay, but the same card can also receive money. That's what we call Visa Direct. And it's not just the card, but working with telcos. Example is Cherrybill in Ethiopia. We are looking at delivering that remittance into the wallet itself. And what that has done is it has enabled money moving from KSA, it's a corridor. KSA to Ethiopia is a corridor, or US to Ethiopia is a corridor. So it enables then money to move across these corridors directly into the customer's account. So that's what Visa is doing. So we have Visa Direct. It's not just to cards, it's to mobile wallet, it's to bank account. And that we believe then helps the SMBs to then have money they can use. And we are going beyond not just payments, money coming in, but we have innovation around that, which is even buying for goods. So you want to buy some items, immediately you buy the items, you get into your cart, and then you can ask someone to pay on your behalf, which is diaspora really paying for you. So that's how we are simplifying money movement.
Thank you for that. Those examples show how inclusion and innovation can move in step. I will stop here and we will open the session for a few audience questions. If you have any questions, well, I'm just being informed we do not have time. Sorry about that, but we are more than open to take your questions offside. So I'd like to end here, and thank you very much, Joanne, Henry, and Jean Pascal for that truly engaging sessions. We have heard today that financial inclusion is not just an end in itself, it's a means to unlock opportunity. When users are equipped with the knowledge to use digital finance services safely, when we have systems built with privacy and security by design, and when we have cross-border payments accessible all over, then we move closer to a future where inclusion is, creating a lasting impact and resilience. Thank you everyone for joining us. I will now hand over to Ashley to give the closing remarks. Please, let's give a round of applause to our panelists.
There's no family picture.
No.
Thank you so much to our panel for that insightful discussion, and to all of you for staying engaged through the last session of the Mobile Money Leadership Forum today. This last conversation reminded us why our work matters. We heard how privacy and security are the bedrock of trust, how financial education empowers people to use digital financial services confidently and safely, and how cross-border payments represent a huge opportunity to drive growth, inclusion, and regional integration. Together, these themes bring us back to the heart of financial inclusion, not just access, but agency. Ensuring people can use digital finance to build resilience, pursue opportunity, and participate fully in the digital financial ecosystem. As we close, I want to thank our speakers, moderators, and panelists for sharing their insights so generously, and to all of you for your engagement and contributions throughout the day. Let's take these conversations forward in the corridors, in our partnerships, and in the work we lead when we return home. Because the future of mobile money will not be written by technology alone. It will be defined by our collective leadership, integrity, and commitment to inclusion, and business models, as Erwan mentioned. So thank you once again for being part of this year's Mobile Money Leadership Forum, and for your continued partnership in shaping a more inclusive digital financial ecosystem for all. Before we wrap up, I want to express my gratitude to the Gates Foundation, Visa, and the GSMA for their generous support of the GSMA Mobile Money Program. And finally, please join us this evening at the Africa Cultural Dinner, hosted by the Rwanda Ministry of ICT and Innovation, to celebrate Africa's diverse and vibrant culture, traditions, and cuisine. So with that, have a great evening, and thank you.